everybody, it's Jeff Antoniuk. Welcome to Digging Deeper Jazz. Well, today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a throwback video to a video I did maybe a year and a half ago on funk scales. It was a really popular video, and people have been asking and wanting to know a little bit more. So let's check this out. And the reason I thought about these funk scales right now is that JazzWire, which is an opportunity for us to work together day in, day out throughout the year, we've been working on one of the songs for Maryland Summer Jazz called Freedom Jazz Dance, this great funk kind of tune of Eddie Harris's. And one of our topics of conversation is like, well, how do we play a one-chord funk tune? Well, this video is going to answer a lot of those questions. I hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, Jeff Antoniuk. We're going to talk about some funk scale ideas today. Welcome to Digging Deeper Jazz videos. As always, these videos are for all instruments. Don't have to be holding a saxophone to get into this stuff. So thank you so much for tuning in. And I want you to listen all the way through to the end of the video, because actually the really good stuff is actually probably going to be towards the end. So hang with me here. Okay, well, I've gotten a ton of requests from people wanting to know sort of how to get into the funk and the rock style a little bit better. And I'd love to send you this PDF that I have. I'll put it up on the screen here really quickly for you. And it's some scale ideas today. Now, in that little paragraph at the top, it's going to mention that this is a small percentage of what it takes to play funk correctly. It's about the rhythm and the repetition and the attitude and the tone and all those kind of things. So there's really much more than the scale stuff. That said, there is a real sort of palette to what's going on here. And I got to tell you, I'm really inspired this particular week. I just was at the JEN conference, the Jazz Educators Network conference in Dallas, and I was hanging out with some of my best friends and fantastic players, Jeff Coffin and Dave Pietro and Bob Mincer and a bunch of my friends from the Airmen of Note. It was a fantastic week, and like I said, I'm inspired, and I heard some really great music. And if you don't know about JEN, this would be a great thing for you to be a member of and to go to their yearly conference. It's pretty mind-blowing. And for folks like you, adult amateurs, folks playing on the side, semi-pros, this isn't just something where people read their papers on, highly intellectual. It ain't any of that. There's a little of that, but it's fantastic. Anyway, let's dig into this this funk stuff here. Now, on the PDF, I put a couple ideas for scales. I think many of these are going to be scales you know really well. So let's start with the minor pentatonic scale. Or as Sonny Rollins played it. Song called Sunny Moon for Two. So this is one of the most important classic scales that there is, and it doesn't matter whether it's rock or folk music or jazz or blues or gospel or R&B. This is a scale that gets used a ton. It's very closely related to the blues scale, which is the second scale I have on the sheet. So my main recommendation with this stuff, especially for playing funk, we talked about how repetition and rhythm and all this stuff is important. Again, we're not really going to talk about it today, but I want to formulate sort of an exercise for you that's going to force you to think that way. So now playing this scale up and down, doesn't sound funky. Doesn't sound funky, right? So the scale isn't it, it's what we do with it. Now, any scale is like that, but I'd say with funk, it's very important. So what I like to do is hang out in very small areas of the scale. Now, this is a short scale already. Penta, it's a 5-note scale, the prefix penta, right? So it's already not much there, and what I want to do is make it less. So for instance, how about this? The area between the flat 7 and the 1 on the sheet is going to be B flat and C. I just played flat 7, 1, so of course it's important to hear it that way. Here's my root. So I'm hearing the root, then I'm going down to a tension, then I'm coming back, right? So now, here's what I want you to do. Play with that a bunch. Make it into some music. Make it into a groove. Think about the rhythm guitar player in James Brown's band. Think about a Herbie Hancock tune like Chameleon and those rhythm parts. Stuff like that. So I'm creating a groove. I'm not thinking about a solo exactly. I'm thinking about making this, like I said, a rhythm guitar part, a drum part that has 2 notes in it. That's the way to practice this. So that's a good, a little place to do it. I love that flat 7 to 1. How about the root to the flat 3rd? I'm dying to play some other notes, but I'm not letting myself. I would go on for a good long time, and you're going to be hearing other notes. Oh, I want to play that note. I wanted to go up to the 4th. So that right there is pretty slick. I set you up to play 2 notes, and now you're aching to play other notes. Now I want you to hear those notes that you want to play, not just, oh, I should wiggle my fingers more. No, what is the note you're hearing? Don't play it yet, hear it. Repeat more, build that tension of that small palette. And then when you play that note that you heard, it'll have some meaning. Maybe you're not hearing a 3rd note, fantastic. So I love that idea of taking 2 or 3 notes. Another little area I like is the 5th to the flat 7, going up to the root. There are a million rock tunes and bass lines that use that, the 5th to the flat 7 to the root. So I was hearing that 3rd. I shouldn't have played it so soon, but I played that 3rd above. So that's sort of the idea, and that's how we get into the minor pentatonic scale and start making it sound like funk, start having some groove to it. It's not by playing the scale up and down. It's great to do that to learn the scale, but that's about it. Now, a couple of things that I was doing that we haven't talked about yet. I always had a groove in mind. So I'm hearing, I guess, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm hearing a 16th note shuffle. You don't have to know what that is. Hear a groove in your head. Put on an Earth, Wind and Fire tune. Put on an old Michael Jackson tune. Hear the groove. Now that's what's in your head. And it's also very, very hard to do this sitting down. I'd like a round of applause, please, for trying to play funk in a seated position. That's hard because we have to dance with this. And I'm not kidding. I'm a terrible dancer. You don't want to see that. I'm not going to do that on video. But there has to be that movement in here, right? So that's that's one of the bigger things I want to talk about. So I got off the scales, but we started talking about minor pentatonic. How do we practice that scale in a funk way? I want you to think like you're a rhythm guitar player in James Brown's band. So now maybe you have to go back and listen to some of those classic tunes and listen inside. There's 2 or 3 parts in there. Listen to a Stevie Wonder tune and listen to the clavinet, that sort of harpsichord sounding thing. Listen to those lines and learn those. Listen to Superstitious or some of those tunes. And listen to that little line. It's often 2 or 3 notes. Okay, you got what I'm talking about. The blues scale, very similar to the minor pentatonic. It has the addition of 1 note. Is minor pentatonic, now here's blues. It's got that 1 extra note in there. I bet most of you know the blues scale, but I'd really encourage you to think of the blues scale and the minor pentatonic as distinct scales. They're different from each other. They have a different vibe. That 1 note really changes things. And as a composer, many composers use minor pentatonic. They don't have that blues note in there. They made that conscious decision. They were hearing it that way. So I would practice the blues scale very much the same way. Let me put the sheet back on the screen for you here. So now let's move down the page to the major pentatonic scale. Now there is a relationship to major pentatonic and minor pentatonic. So if you look at example 1, C minor pentatonic, I said in parentheses, the same notes as E flat major pentatonic. I don't want to get digging too deeply into this, but the recipe for a minor pentatonic and the recipe for a major pentatonic are different. right? I'll go over right here. Minor pentatonic, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, as you see on the sheet. A major pentatonic, the recipe is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1. So it's a different recipe. And it turns out that there's a major and a minor pair that end up being the same notes. C minor pentatonic and E flat major pentatonic are the same notes. They're like modes of each other. Again, don't get worried about that, but if that's of interest to you, something you can search out. Now let me play some D major pentatonic for you. I'm sorry, C major pentatonic. So, we've heard that song. Now, the major pentatonic scale can definitely sound like folk music from many cultures around the world. That didn't sound like folk music. I was implying a groove. I was playing with an intensity of tone, etc., etc. And think about all those great Motown tunes. That was 1, 5, 6, 1. That happier, the sort of happy Motown vibe uses the major pentatonic scale a lot. The sort of heavier, deeper, darker, whatever the word is, rock tunes, funk tunes use more of the minor pentatonic and blues. So that's one way you can think about this palette. I have these 4 scales on the sheet, but the palette's different. There's the more minor ones, which we started with the flat 7s and the flat 3rds. And then we have the more sort of major, happier kind of vibe that have major 3rds and the 6th scale degree instead of the flat 7. It really changes everything up. So, on lots of those great classic, major, happy, poppy sounding Motown tunes, that's the scale, major pentatonic, for sure. All right, so now here's the part that to me was a big deal when I learned it. And this is example 4 on the sheet. Let me put this up for you. This scale, if it has a name, I don't know what it is. I was inclined to, just call it the Jeff scale or something like that, but I don't want to upset people. So it's, I'm calling it the minor major pentatonic. I know it has a name. Someone let me know what it is. But what it is a major pentatonic scale with the addition of a minor 3rd. Here's number 3. Major pentatonic. Here's number 4. Same scale, but I'm adding a flat 3rd. So it's a 6-note pentatonic scale. Yeah, so sue me. I know that doesn't work out. But there we go. That's what we're going to call it. So for me, I'm thinking of it as the C major pentatonic scale with this passing note. I just played up scale number 4. So I did something kind of special there, and this is one of the other big points I want to make. Is there's this cool sound that we hear a lot in rock, funk, etc., where it's a major sound as we ascend. I put a little minor 3rd in there, but it was just a grace note to the 3rd. That sounded major. Right? A major sound then as we come down. You can play the blues scale or highlight that, that minor 3rd. So when I'm going up, I play the major 3rd. And then the minor 3rd on the way down. So very often, on the way up, I play the major 3rd, sometimes with that little minor 3rd into it. 1, 2, flat 3, 3 is what I did there. But then on the way down, I don't have the major 3rd. I just really highlight the flat 3rd. And when I say me, this is me copying all the great people before. So I didn't invent this. This isn't something I put together for this video. I'm sharing with you guys real information that people have been doing for decades and decades and decades before me, and hoping that I can give it to you in bite-sized chunks, right? So one of the most classic, openings to half the R&B solos ever played is playing this. I'm frankly playing up the scale number 4. Playing up that sort of major triad with the 6th in there, and then having some minor 3rd stuff later. And then at the end, to make it really bluesy, flat 7 to 1. So, for me, what I do a ton in this kind of playing is using scale number 4, if it fits in a more major dominant kind of sound. Scale number 4 with that major going up, minor going down thing, and then when I sort of want to make a point, I'll introduce the flat 7. So now I've got a pentatonic scale with 7 notes. Yeah, I know. So, but I'm not thinking about it as a scale. This is like a melodic device. I've been using the word scale all day, and I don't think that's the best word to use. These aren't exactly scales. They're almost melodies waiting to happen, right? As opposed to scales, which are truly these linear, one after another kind of note things. So, again, I'll do it one last time. That idea of playing major up, minor down, and then I'll pick and choose. I mean, I may do it once, in a good long while, introduce that flat 7, like a little cymbal splash, or, sort of my equivalent. Right? I was hitting that flat 7. And that's sort of a cool thing I introduce every once in a while and then go on from there. So, and we can hear these sort of sounds in so many different tunes. Think of In a Sentimental Mood. I wonder if I can play it in this same key. So, it's, it's the Duke Ellington song. It's in a minor tonality, but it's pentatonic. Now here, he played major up, and then minor going down. So it's a great example. There's hundreds, thousands of examples of this. So again, we see this in all the great composers and players that came before us. All right, well, I hope that's helpful. As I said, there's so much going on beyond just the scale choices, but I wanted to let everybody know sort of about the palette that we're using. And these 4 scales here are great ones. Like I said, just practicing the scale up and down is good, but it's not going to get you into the style. So there's all this other stuff to be thinking about. How do we get there? My favorite way is to give you 2 or 3 notes and a minute. And I want you to play for a minute, which is actually a long time with 2 or 3 notes, and see what you can come up with. There has to be repetition. There has to be a groove if you're going to make 2 notes remotely interesting. All right? So good. I hope that helps out a little bit, answers some questions. I really appreciate all the great questions and requests that I've been getting over the last year for digging deeper topics. So keep them flowing. I would be delighted to send you this PDF. So if you just send me an email to diggingdeeperjazz@gmail.com, and I'll get it off to you. All right. Thanks so much.